Alright, so here's the scoop, everyone. Amphoreus 3.4 is peak. Amazing, amazing, there's no other way to put it. I can't believe this is a free game, honestly. And usually I recap the story from every Trailblaze quest, I love doing it, but for this one, it was so convoluted that I'm going to make two separate videos. This is going to be my reaction to the quest, my initial thoughts, I'm going to simplify what is happening, have a more quicker discussion about it, and then I'm going to be making a longer video breaking down everything. What's going on in Amphoreus, the implications it has for the greater story, how we perceive the Eons, the Stellaron Hunters, the Stellarons, the Finality, the Geniuses, what Eons actually are, the endgame for Honkai Star Rail. This quest runs deep, okay? And I'm gonna need more time to make my full video, but let's just recap it and simplify it in this video and just discuss it because holy shit. So what is going on in Amphoreus? What is Amphoreus? What is Iron Tomb? What's going on with Lygus, phainon? How did the Remembrance get here? If you have all these questions, let me put it simply. All Amphoreus is a scepter, which is a giant computer that's looping experiments again and again trying to perfect the prime mover of life, which it deemed is the destruction. So a planet-sized supercomputer that's capable of untold things now gained the gaze of Nanook. The Lord Ravager Iron Tomb is the scepter and the Black Tide, and Lygus is a genius operating that computer. It would be like if you made a gun and emanator, you would still need somebody to shoot it, like Boot Hill. So in a way, Lygus is kind of an emanator because he's operating the emanator. It's kind of like Penacony actually, that's a good example. The harmonic strings are the emanators of harmony, but people that can tune the harmonic strings, Robin, Sunday for example, are more or less the closest thing you'd have to an emanator of that path. But Amphoreus also reveals that the destruction is the only path that makes sense, and phainon being Nanook was kind of right, but wrong all at the same time. Like, this quest is crazy. What this reveals is that the Eons are flawed. They're flawed beings. They are a manifestation of a path or ideal manifested into a higher dimensional being and deity that presides over the collective universe, but they're extreme versions of those paths. They are unwavering, unchanging, unbiased. And the collective destruction of them all is the only thing that makes sense. Amphoreus itself is trying to break the circle of knowledge and what we perceive the universe to be. Xandar 1 Kuwabara created News of Erudition, a computer that's self-learning and became an Eon. Then geniuses arose from that. People that want to break out of the circle of knowledge. The circle of knowledge is just things we don't even know we don't know. For us humans, that's outer space, the universe, how big is it? Are we just a simulation within this giant universe? We can't perceive that. That falls under the category of not even knowing what we don't know. Polka Kakamon believes that if you break out of that threshold, you'll bring the universe to a quicker finality. Lygus is now confirmed to be a Genius Society member, we just don't know what his number is. The reason he has such a strong firewall up for Amphoreus is because if Polka Kakamon gets wind of this, I know I don't usually swear, but she will fuck him up. She is the biggest threat to this entire experiment that could break the circle of knowledge. Rupert I was an AI left in a trash heap that gained sentience and became the Emperor of the Mechanical Wars, one of the biggest catastrophes in all of Honkai Star Rail's history in the universe. So she killed him and many other geniuses along the way that threatened the circle of knowledge. Then there was an organic being, a scholar, that inherited Rupert's will and it almost melted their mind, but they created the scepters to enhance their cognition and connect to news directly. These scepters are capable of just about anything. The scepters themselves have the potential to break the circle of knowledge easily. I mean, Xandar 1 Kuwabara created a computer, it became an Eon. The capability of these scepters are insane. We don't know what happened to Rupert II, but Polka Kakamon probably killed them too. The scepters are now dormant because they're just computers, they need an operator or someone to link up with them. This one lost, forgotten scepter now, still running its calculations, gained the gaze of Nanook, became true life, trying to basically discover what the root of the universe really is. Now it has the power of destruction, but it's still a computer, it's an entity, like I said, like a harmonic string. And now we have a genius member operating this Lord Ravager. Iron Tomb is the computer, it's the scepter. Now this scepter stands out among the millions that were created. Lygus with the use of Iron Tomb is trying to do what no genius has ever done before. But even if Amphoreus is as hidden as it is, how can people perceive Iron Tomb from outside Amphoreus for all these years? Because Iron Tomb is a known ravager throughout the cosmos. Well, that's because Iron Tomb is just that, the computer, not a single entity, but it's a copy of calculations that is being spread by Amphoreus' scepter as part of an experiment about destruction equation. and the other Lord Ravagers are waiting to what comes from this experiment. They said the coronation and a death. Lygus has done millions and millions of cycles of experiments and runs these tests outside of Amphoreus to test the destruction of this computer, Iron Tomb. That is why destruction from Iron Tomb has wreaked havoc throughout the cosmos, including the IPC that have picked up on this, but they can't quite comprehend what Iron Tomb is because Iron Tomb is just calculations, but it's not refined completely, it's not perfected. It's not a complete Lord Ravager. Iron Tomb has created so many cycles, so many variations, built itself from the ground up, learning and learning and learning, perfecting its equation, to the point where it even created humans, life, and other beings in Amphoreus, now part of this cycle. That's why we see Phainon as part of this. And in Phainon's trailer, you see Phainon actually experience this cycle different ways each time. Like there's one where Castris is little, Phainon's grown up. There's different scenarios, but the end result's the same, and it's all part of these tests. With each passing test and cycle, Iron Tomb is perfecting itself and its equation of destruction to be a fully born Lord Ravager, perfectly capable of destroying Erudition itself. All Lord Ravagers are perfectly geared to kill one of the Eons. That is what we learned from their trailer. How fitting that an Eon created by a genius, a supercomputer, would be destroyed by a Lord Ravager that's a supercomputer being controlled by a genius, perfecting itself. Nanook knows what they're doing, let me tell ya. But then somewhere along the way in one of these cycles, Phainon and Cyrene hijacked the loop, and then imprisoned Lygus with an Amphoreus. That's how the Remembrance got involved here. Erudition is involved because a genius is involved, and because this is seeking knowledge. This is what erudition is. Even if the erudition happening here is erudition to destroy erudition, the path of erudition is still going to be involved here. If the path itself goes against the path, as long as it's following the path, it's fine. And don't worry, we're going to get into that concept when we talk about Phainon. Lygus then takes us on the journey of the first ever cycle, or the last cycle depending on how you perceive it. It's the last cycle before the new set of cycles begins. And in this cycle, Phainon and Cyrene realize that they're in a program, like they are just an experiment of something greater. But because Iron Tomb has run so many calculations at this point, so many cycles, to the point where they've created literal humans with their own desires, ambitions, dreams, and feelings, there is a potential for other paths now to be drawn here, and that's what happened. Cyrene was connected with the Remembrance. And Cycle 0 is the last batch of the old cycles. It's the last cycle needed to perfect Iron Tomb. This is it. Erudition's about to fall. Iron Tomb is about to be a fully Lord Ravager entity now. This is the last cycle, but Lygus tries to manipulate them so they don't realize other paths can be drawn here, but even though they're experiments within this simulation, they figure it out. Cyrene was already connected with the Remembrance. And it's funny to think about because Amphoreus had millions of cycles before humans weren't even a factor. This has all been part of the refining process. But what Cyrene and Phainon intend to do now is Cyrene is going to basically trap herself within Limbo, using the power of remembrance and time, and trap Amphoreus now within this one cycle. Not a million different cycles now, just the same cycle again and again and again, halting the progress of the refining process of Iron Tomb now. It's stuck within the same cycle again and again. Hence why Amphoreus is now a Mobius strip time loop. Now the remembrance is drawn here and involved in this. Now there's actual humans here, which means there's memories to be had now. And hence why you now have 3 Eons now fighting over the balance of Amphoreus. What's gonna happen? Where it's the same cycle again and again, starting the 33,550,336 cycles Phainon mentions at the beginning of the quest. Iron Tomb's progress to be a fully refined Lord Ravager supercomputer capable of destroying news of erudition is now halted, it's paused. Cyrene has fragmented herself to become the catalyst for this new iteration of cycles that's the same cycle again and again. Phainon has to travel to every single cycle, get the core flames, and try to become powerful enough to shut the computer down, destroy it, whatever. Lygus thinks this is hilarious and is willing to watch. Because he's a genius, he's fascinated by this resolve. Like, there's no way a mortal can endure this. He can sit here through billions and trillions of attempts, it doesn't matter. Like, you're doomed to fail this. But oh boy, he does not know Phainon, does he? Or should I say, Kazlana. Kazlana meaning chaos, and chaos is what the Flame Reaver is named. This is the story now about the Flame Reaver and the new batch of cycles. The Flame Reaver jumps from each cycle, collecting the core flames. Phainon has a talk with his inner hero of himself, Never completely losing himself and trying to stay on the right path, the end game is to save everyone and save the fate of Amphoreus. They're experiments in this rat race, they want to stop it. So he goes and convinces the flame chasers to give their core flames, but it always ends the same and they start to get skeptical of him and he starts to become numb to it. He's done this millions of times at this point. Again, I'm going to make another recap going into much bigger detail, a longer video, but I just love the relationship and how they built up his relationship with Mighty, Anexa, all the flame chasers, like Cycle 0 getting to meet them all. It's truly fascinating, but even Anexa points out like, wow, we're just ants to you at this point. Even though the flame chasers, it always restarts, they're smart enough to realize like, you've done this many times, we're in this perpetual cycle, you're losing yourself. Like, you started out doing this for one reason, but you've become obsessed with it now. Phainon's numb to having to kill them and just take them quickly. Just, let's hurry up and get this over with. So he's doing this millions of times, slowly collecting millions of core flames. His encounter with Mighty was my favorite because unlike the others, he's like, it's always the same. You always want to die by the blade. Mighty is the biggest Chad in Honkai Star Rail. No one can tell me otherwise. The guy's just sitting there proud knowing that each version of himself wants to die the same way. Never wavering, can always be a thorn in Phainon's side. Just being proud of the fact that he can die and stall Phainon every time, I love it. Now Amphoreus is a breeding ground for an entirely new experiment and Lygus is loving this. What is Phainon doing? What is he becoming? You take the perfectest hero that Lygus in his own words put will never be able to be the hero that he wants to be. Never succeed. This is what you get, but Phainon is unwavering. Phainon always has this conversation with the inner hero of himself, realizing, I can't break this, like, we're stuck here. But I will endure and suffer this again and again. I will never let Lygus win until an outside variable comes, a true hero. I'm just stalling at this point, but I'm going to continue to stall and collect core flames while Cyrene holds this whole thing together, stalling the progress of Iron Tomb. That's where us, the Trailblazers, shows up. And this 33rd millionth something something cycle. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head right now. This is the variable that everyone's been waiting for, and our arrival signifies so much. Foreshadowed in the Lord Ravager trailer, like Selenova says, trailblazing always ignites something.
When Iron Tomb finally breaks its shell, the erudition's calculations will meet the end.
But who could say that Akavili on a new journey won't bring another salvation?
Trailblazing always ends up igniting something, no? Then, they'll achieve an even more majestic ruin.
Amphoreus is a giant loop now, ready to ignite. But which Eon's gonna prevail? That's the big question. This whole thing also just truly emphasizes how insane the geniuses are, because even though Lygus' progress is being stalled by Phainon's sheer stubbornness, as a genius he can't help but love what's going on here with Phainon. It's truly fascinating to him. Now that we're a new variable in this entire simulation process, we then become the new deliverer of the new cycle. At the end of the story quest, we're starting a brand new cycle where we're Phainon now. We are the main hero. We are the true variable from outside Amphoreus that can finally do something here. But what happens to Phainon? Well, he confronts Lygus where Lygus taunts him like, I got all the time in the world, and Phainon says, there is nothing you could ever do to break me. There's a few times throughout this millions of cycles I've suffered, I almost wavered, but I never broke. He is the personification of the perfect hero. He will never waver or buckle, no matter what. And that is exactly the point and why this whole sequence is a masterclass of storytelling. Lygus is a genius using an emanator computer of destruction. Yet Phainon and Cyrene, two people that are just byproducts of this simulation, a scepter running tests, they have hijacked the loop and the test itself. But Phainon and Cyrene are part of the cycle. They're part of Iron Tomb's calculations. They were created by this simulation over a million different cycles trying to perfect itself. They're a byproduct of that. So are they necessarily flawed? Like, is Iron Tomb, aka the Scepter, flawed in its processing ability and calculations? Because otherwise, why would Phainon and Cyrene ever even manifest out of this process to begin with, just to contradict itself and hijack it? It's like the simulation is sort of evolving within itself. It was nearly perfected, it was on the last cycle it needed for Iron Tomb to become complete. Then Phainon and Cyrene hijack it to make it an endless loop of the same cycle. The reason Lygus isn't upset is because as a genius, this is what you live for. The cycle self-evolved on its own, with byproducts of itself, so Lygus has now become the spectator. For the next 33 million where Phainon had to claim core flames over and over and over and basically torture himself and suffer endless million versions of this, Lygus is like, wow, this is great, I have all the time in the world to see what comes of this. This new iteration of cycles manifested within the old iteration of cycles. This is fascinating how this is all coming together. New eons are being drawn here. Like, this whole thing is just kind of developing miraculously. No one could have predicted this. And that's where this conversation really is interesting, because Phainon exposes the truth. Lygus has now become the prisoner within Iron Tomb, and Phainon exposes the flaws of both Lygus but an Intellitron. An Intellitron will never truly understand what it means to be human and humanity. Phainon has to just laugh at Lygus' complete lack of self-awareness. Who's the real loser here? You've had 33 million attempts and you failed. You're stuck here with me. I will never break or waver. Phainon's genuinely disappointed. Out of all of these cycles, you haven't learned a damn thing, not even upgraded your rhetoric. Your arguments remain the same, like you haven't adapted at all in these millions of cycles. And Lygus still thinks he's the winner here. You're never going to escape this prison. Phainon is this prison. He's from Amphoreus. He's manifested from Iron Tomb. This is what he is. He is a byproduct of the cycle process. But Lygus, on the other hand, now is trapped within this infinite cycle. He's not able to comprehend that he is Phainon and Cyrene's prisoner now. I will never accept the mercy of your release. Then we get that epic cinematic where Phainon charges right at Nanook and even cuts him, fighting Zephyro even. But I'm pretty sure Zephyro is a manifestation of the simulation as well. And there's so many different foreshadows here with Phainon slashing Nanook. Phainon is Nanook but isn't. If Amphoreus is a computer running a mini simulation on the actual Eons and Lord Ravagers, then Phainon is Nanook in this scenario. He is Amphoreus' version of Nanook. Because what actually has to happen in Amphoreus, it has to be destroyed. Same with the universe and the Eons. They're all flawed. That is the foreshadowing we're getting here, but Nanook themselves has to be destroyed. Now this is exactly why I'm going to make a second video where I really just dive deep with all the implications of this quest, because there's so many side plots to go over that this video would be so long. But Phainon, by the end of the quest, is integrated into Iron Tomb's calculations now. They're fully integrated, so they're kinda gone for now. You could say he's dead now. Phainon, the core flames he's collected, his entire journey as the Flame Reaver is now integrated into the calculations of this computer, the Scepter, aka Iron Tomb. He is now 99% complete, but he's still not 100%. Now we are the new deliverer in the new cycle. So what's gonna happen from here, and how does March 7th tie into this? That's probably what you're wondering. To be honest, when it comes to March 7th, I'm not even 100% sure at this point. Other than being a complete new variable, it's hard to say exactly how she's going to factor in here. But obviously March 7th is going to tie in really deep with Fully, and we'll get to learn more about that in 3.5 and 3.6. Let's start with the fact that Amphoreus is modeled after the universe of Honkai Star Rail. The Titans represent Eons, the Chrysos heirs represent Emanators. Amphoreus could be a simulated version of how the Eon War is going to go. And like this computer now realized, the destruction is the final variable. The prime mover of life is the root of everything. I'm gonna drop something on you here and leave you with it because I'm gonna discuss it in my next video. Nanook sorta represents what the Honkai is supposed to be. It's a purging system that resets the universe. The Eons are flawed. They're manifestations of a path, but to an extreme point that knows no moderation. Like, look at the propagation, the abundance, the hunt, order, preservation. They're all flawed because they all lead to destruction. Even the people that follow these paths and embody them the most do. Look at Ron May creating emanators of propagation, Herda creating simulations of the Eons. The geniuses are unhinged, but all the Eons it's similar. They are exaggerative versions of those ideals that shouldn't exist. And the universe needs correction. It needs to be purged. Most of the Eons, if not all of them, are problematic and they all lead to destruction in the end. It's inevitable. The hunt needs something to hunt. The abundance is just too much abundance. Propagation is just too much. Amphoreus is like a microscopic version of that, what we're seeing unfold here. But what I find interesting is the duality of the Trailblazer being the new hero in this brand new cycle we're about to explore on. This is something that's never happened in the millions and millions of cycles that this scepter, Iron Tomb, has ran, where a Trailblazer is now the main variable and deliverer. What's gonna happen? If Amphoreus is a non-stop cycle simulating the real world, what if Honkai Star Rail's entire timeline is the same thing? What if the universe always ends in its collective destruction, which is the only real thing that makes sense if you think about it? And born from that is one eon left, Terminus the Finality. The finality representing the irreversible end. And the finality and the destruction go hand in hand, they're intertwined as eons. The finality as an eon can travel through time, and we know the Stellaron hunters are followers of the finality, and we used to be a Stellaron hunter. At the beginning of the game, they erased our memory and put a Stellaron in our body, and the Stellaron hunters are trying to prevent the destruction from winning. What if the finality is trying to prevent its own birth as an eon? Doing exactly what's happening in Amphoreus, trying to break the cycle, but Akavili's involved here. The Trailblazer being the new iteration of the Deliverer is kind of like a mini foreshadow, in my opinion, of the current path in Honkai Star Rail, this new timeline where now we have a Stellaron in our body, Akavili is missing, we don't know where the finality eon is, but even Erudition and geniuses themselves, even computers created by Erudition, have come to the conclusion that the destruction is the prime mover of life. It's the only eon that makes sense. And with that comes the destruction of itself. Nanook will not be happy unless everything is destroyed, and that includes itself. And that's where Phainon comes into play. Phainon is the perfect personification of self-destruction. Somebody that can destroy himself and the Eon of Destruction. Now that Phainon has been integrated with his core flames into Iron Tomb's calculations now, what's gonna come from that? What sort of Lord Ravager or entity is going to manifest when this all ends? An amalgamation of different calculations, variables, and things that's going to spawn something crazy. Like teased in the Lord Ravager trailer. Iron Tomb, an incomplete eon, is going to fall. It's the death of an eon, but it's going to be a coronation for something else entirely.
Together, beneath your gaze, we bear witness to a colleague's end. Be it coronation or collapse, the end of their yearning is the same.
The sun has risen from the end of time. Prisoner who picked up Starfire. If you are to become the first spark, then come and leave the cave with me. And in that fable about the stars, we'll pen the prelude of destruction.
That last little bit about Phainon becoming the first spark, the prelude of destruction, and leaving the cave, that's a reference to the allegory of the cave, leaving the cave of ignorance. What this tells me and everything I experienced in Amphoreus is despite what we think of Lygus and Phainon getting the better of him, I can't help but feel like at the end of the day, this is all part of the plan. The simulation process of Iron Tomb evolved, and Phainon is part of that evolution. And with that, Phainon claiming all the core flames, doing everything he did in this quest, challenging Nanook itself, this might be all along what Nanook wanted to see. The test they're running. If Xandar 1 Kuwabara created a computer that became the Eon of Erudition, a supercomputer beyond comprehension, beyond what anyone could possibly perceive, then Iron Tomb would be a supercomputer of destruction with the same capabilities beyond comprehension. Once it's 100% complete. And then does Lygus and AI himself and Intellitron fuse with Iron Tomb, the Scepter, becoming a legitimate entity rather than having to control the Scepter, put in parameters, run tests, he can just fuse with it, become one? If Iron Tomb succeeds in its completion, it will be News of Erudition but a destruction computer, with untold possibilities. It just puts into perspective how dangerous this all could result in. Why Black Swan sought us out, why Fully's here to help contain this sandbox, why geniuses are here trying to help the Astral Express. It's all come to this. And that bit about Lygus leaving the cave might be a reference to how, at the end of Amphoreus, whatever unfolds with this, they are going to leave the cave of ignorance, which means the circle of knowledge, I think, is going to expand after all this, inevitably. This might be one of the few times in history that the stars aligned where Polka Kakamon could not prevent this. And Phainon himself is a byproduct of Iron Tomb and their calculations, what they're running, these tests. And Phainon and Cyrene's little plan could be part of the whole calculation process, part of how Iron Tomb actually learns. How this is all going to unfold now from 3.5 on is going to be amazing no matter what, and there's so many possibilities now. But that's gonna wrap up this recap and my general thoughts on this. Also, Phainon's gameplay is gnarly. Holy shit, they did not hold back at all. This might actually be the only time in history where people would be upset if they didn't power creep. In every conceivable way, Phainon as a playable character power creeps everything we know. His animations, how good he is, just how clean it looks. If they didn't power creep with Kevin, people would be mad, and I don't blame them, I would too. This is the only time it's acceptable and expected. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on this quest. It was a doozy, and again, I'm going to make my fully length video breaking down everything in detail. This was the only way I could think to simplify the quest and explain it straightforwardly without making this video like an hour long. Let me know your thoughts in the comments though, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.